Let me just say this right now, I don't give a shit what console you plan on getting. I really don't. I don't give a shit if you plan on staying on PC. I don't care if you plan on staying on the current generation of consoles, or if you plan on buying every fucking thing out there, including Steambox and Ouya, whatever the fuck you want to pronounce that piece of shit. But after the E3 conference that just passed, I'm sure everyone is pretty informed as to what the consoles will be offering when Xbox One and PlayStation 4 are released, and the Wii U that is still on the market. Now, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, I had planned on going to PlayStation 4 way before the consoles were ever announced, unless they had some kind of monumental fuck-up. But that doesn't mean that the main three console makers didn't fuck up along the way. Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo all made stupid-ass moves, and of course, I feel like yelling at all three of them. So we'll start in order of the way the consoles were released. Nintendo already released the Wii U, Sony revealed in February, and then I'll finish up with Microsoft. Oh, poor Microsoft. You're gonna get blasted in a few videos, motherfucker. In the background, we have some Wii footage from Grim Reaper, but in any event, Nintendo is treated like the redheaded stepchild of the group. The media views Nintendo as the cute little Japanese video game company because, after all, Sony's a large conglomerate with electronics, music, movies, and all that. Microsoft built their reputation in software. Nintendo makes video games and consoles, thus the media doesn't see them in any prestige like the other two companies. Just look at E3, for example. Nintendo is tired of being treated like shit, so they said fuck it. No E3 presentation, no spending all this money to show up only for the media to ignore them and their little video gaming machine. So they did a smart thing. They did a pre-taped video showing off all their products. It saves money on setting up a stage, saves money on travel costs, and you make for the media pay for your streaming costs. This is fucking brilliant. Here's the problem. As nice as their stream was, as decent as their lineup of Nintendo properties are, as cute as the 30-year-old Donkey Kong is, Nintendo is fucked. Oh, and they're not just fucked. I mean, they're fucked more than Jameson has ever been fucked. They're fucked more than a pedophile in the prison shower system is fucked. Nintendo is royally screwed over, and they have nobody to blame but themselves. And listen, I like Nintendo. I played on 3 consoles in my early childhood, and I have fond memories of Tecmo Super Bowl, Mario 3, Donkey Kong Country, and defending Nintendo consoles against the Sega consoles. Doesn't change the fact that right now they are fucked. Here's the deal. Nintendo fucked over Microsoft and Sony in the last console generation with the Wii. They completely pissed in their Wheaties years ago with a simple and innovative machine that made Microsoft and Sony shit themselves. Nintendo basically said, fuck the hardcore gaming crowd, we're going after the casual gamer, and we're going after the non-gamer to sell our product. You two giant assholes can fight each other out to the death. Meanwhile, we'll roll out happy little games and turn profits, and that's exactly what they did. Microsoft released 360 a full year ahead of the Wii. PlayStation 3 released around the same time, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe they actually released in the same week or some shit like that. And anyway, Nintendo brilliantly undercut the cost of the Wii to make the prices more appealing. Why spend $400, $500, $600 on a console when you can spend $250? I mean, oh man, did they fuck Microsoft in the ass, and mainly, it fucked Sony in the ass. For the first few years, Nintendo was outselling Xbox and PlayStation, and even more impressive, for the first time since Sony launched PlayStation 1, Nintendo was winning in its own home country of Japan, and they did it with a lower price tag. They did it by going after a different market. They did it by watching the two video game giants pour millions into their consoles and take loss after loss with each sale of their machine. Meanwhile, they made profit. And they did it with an innovative controller and motion sensor system. Seriously, would you think that Halo, Gears of War, Gran Turismo, Metal Gear would get punked by Wii Bowling? Are you fucking kidding me? Fucking Wii Party and Wii Dance and Wii Fit and Wii Tennis have people looking like a Wii-tard in their living rooms, and people ate this shit up. They ate it up to the tune of 2 to 3 years at the top of the food chain in sales. But the final 2 years of the Wii is where shit went wrong. Betting your profits on casual gamers and non-gamers catches up to you eventually. All those people who played Wii, hopscotch, or whatever the fuck, they got bored. It was fun for a while, but they got their fill of the novelty of the idea. Meanwhile, the hardcore everyday gamers stayed relatively steady, pumping millions into Microsoft and Sony, who copied the Wii with motion control bullshit and started taking their market share back. The final 2 years of the Wii's life cycle saw sales go down. Xbox was selling more than the Wii on a monthly basis. PlayStation 3 took back the Japanese market, and worst of all, games weren't being purchased or played. Surveys and studies were showing gamers spending more time on the 360 and PlayStation 3 than the Wii, so the tides were turning. Casual gaming was fading and the novelty had worn off. Did Nintendo pay attention? No, they didn't. So Nintendo's 5-year itch to make a new console came around, and they had a choice to make. Go after the casual gamers, you know, the ones that aren't buying games or playing games anymore, or go head-to-head with Sony and Microsoft. And look what they chose. They chose to go after a market that wasn't buying games, and worst of all, what made the console successful last time, they also ignored. They let Microsoft and Sony set the market price, and they undercut them by almost half. This time around, Nintendo was setting the market price, allowing the other two assholes to get a look at what the market will be like for them when they release the following year. The Wii U reveal was also underwhelming. Most of the casual market had no idea it was a new console. Most people thought, oh, that's a nice new controller for my Wii that I don't play. And then when they were told it's $300 for a new console, they were like, oh, wait a second, I really don't play my Wii anymore, so I don't think I'm going to be buying this bullshit. Then the specs were released for the hardcore gamers. It's more powerful than the PlayStation 3 and 360, but not by much. In fact, now that we know the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One specs, the Wii U is actually closer in technical abilities and custom features to the PlayStation 3 and 360 than it is to the next generation of consoles. In other words, it's more powerful than the older consoles, but it's closer in ability to the older ones than the newer ones. Okay, Nintendo, so you don't feel like competing with Microsoft and Sony again. No big deal. You did fine bucking the trend last generation, but what games do you have? Matter of fact, you had an impressive lineup, almost 30 launch games with Assassin's Creed 3, Black Ops 2, Mass Effect 3, Batman Arkham City, Madden, all games you can get on other consoles. All games that are ported over to Nintendo because of your unique control, they get shitty ports because we all know how much developers enjoy making 360 games. Hey, PlayStation 3 owners like Nintendo owners were always screwed over in this regard, so I know that fucking feeling. In the end, they had a side-scrolling Mario game and Nintendo Land as their main exclusives. Their multi-platform games were half-ass developed products that publishers generally ignored. And it's sad because they had what sounds like an amazing launch lineup. It's just that out of those 30 games or so, majority were already played and bought on other consoles, and the exclusives were nothing to write home about. There was no Donkey Kong, no Super Smash Bros., no Bayonetta as of yet. All that shit was saved until this year, and while Nintendo had an impressive group of exclusives this year, and most people will point to that being the competition for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, you missed the whole point of releasing the console before them. With a one-year head start on them, you could have killed their opening by releasing more exclusives. Imagine what a launch title of a new Donkey Kong would have done. Imagine a Mario Kart launch title or more Pokemons or some shit like that. Or go big! Give everyone the next great Mario game or Zelda or Metroid. You waited a year to release all of this. Most gamers weren't buying the 360 and PlayStation 3 consoles last year, knowing not too many games were on the horizon and that new consoles were in development. You could have flooded the market with top-notch games and you failed to do it. Now, your Donkey Kong game is going to be going up against Call of Duty and Battlefield 4 on the new consoles. Monolith's X, which looks very nice by the way, is going to have to compete against the Diablos, Final Fantasies, and Destinies of the next generation. Bayonetta, your one true stolen exclusive, is going to have to match up against Killzone, Infamous, Killer Instinct, and Forza. Unless your plan was to sit back and let Sony screw themselves over again, which they didn't this time around, or let Microsoft fuck up and get greedy, which they damn sure did. Your plan of sitting back and waiting has backfired to the tune of less than 5 million units sold through the end of May. Although expect your June numbers to skyrocket after Microsoft damn near imploded at E3. Nintendo expected to sell 2 million consoles per month through their first 6 months for 12 million units. You haven't even sold half of that yet. You're gonna finish at around 5.5 million. Come holiday season in 5 more months, you better hope Sony manages to fuck up the freight train they have rolling and that Microsoft continues their downward spiral. That's the only way you're gonna be able to get a bigger lead on them in sales figures. And it's really sad because everything you did right with the Wii, you're doing wrong with the Wii U, and your fans and consumers deserve better than this in the first year. The games are coming, but you should have had an excellent lineup of exclusives waiting for them besides the initial 30 games of ports and shit like that. Your impatience to keep your 5-year console promise is going to cost you this generation, and it's going to cost you big time with gamers. Casual gamers are not buying consoles, and the hardcore gamers are going to flock to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And that 1-year advantage you had over the consoles, you completely pissed away without having a major exclusive or two to really fuck with Sony and Microsoft's day. Anyways, that's it for part 1 of the rant. Sony and Microsoft is coming up, so you guys better be prepared for those because I'm going to tear into both of those assholes. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit, and I'll see you guys in the next video.